You know, one of the things I love most about the East Coast tour is discovering just how many passionate people are helping shape the future of cannabis in places you might never expect. Today, we've made our way to a quiet corner of South Jersey. We're at Hamilton Farms, one of New Jersey's first independent recreational cannabis companies. And this operation is family ran, with a legacy cultivator who narrowly escaped 28 years in prison. From cutting-edge cultivation techniques to old-school East Coast genetics, this team is blending the best of cannabis culture's past and future under one roof. Let's head inside Hamilton Farms, brought to you by CannaCribs and High Times. So we're out here in South New Jersey at Hamilton Farms, a very well-respected cannabis brand that was started by a family out here, but now it's ran by a legacy grower who almost went to jail for 28 years. Now he's growing some amazing cannabis at one of the first independent recreational cannabis companies in the state. Let's go inside and say hi.
This is the first legal grow facility I've ever been a part of. Early on, part of the design phase, I was in Denver on phone calls with the design company trying to figure out, best decisions, best practices, best equipment. And I'd only done, 12 lights, 16 lights are my biggest grows that I ever set up. So I literally used CannaCribs as my resource to understand what are the best practices and equipment and what are the best facilities. Like, never thinking that. It was just like, right, you have these little thoughts in your head. And then the first time Joe came over and he's like, we'll get you an episode one day. I was like, whatever, Joe, that's fine. And then here we are.
So Anthony, we're here at Hamilton. You are really one of the people that built this place from the ground up. Tell us about your path to getting to Hamilton Farms and building out this facility.
I started in Colorado. 2006 was my first grow out there. It was a 4-light basement grow, and I was licensed under the medical marijuana program in Colorado. Awesome era, grassroots, where we literally got to grow out of a house and sell directly to patients. We stacked plant cards, 6 plants per patient. So we had a license to grow at our house and sell to a retail store in Denver. About a year and a half later, they started bringing in commercial facilities, and they changed the law to make it so you had to be in a facility like this to be able to produce medical cannabis for the market. My dream was to build my own facility, right? Was to get the capital together and start growing in a space that was licensed and legal, but it was gonna take a while to get there. I kept going in the market that I knew best, which was the legacy market. At one point I had 6 houses and almost 100 lights expanded across the whole Denver metro area. And then 2017, one morning, everything changed. It was 8:30 a.m., March 2nd, just rapping on the door, knock, knock, knock. I thought I had friends who were just messing with me that morning. And I look out my window and I see 5 fully tactical Arapahoe County sheriff with a battering ram. They knocked down the door. I hadn't even gotten dressed yet, fully naked. I go running downstairs. They put me directly on the ground, fully naked, handcuff me, got my dog barking in the background. I'm scared she's gonna get shot. About 15 minutes later, people are just coming into the house, clearing the house military style, flipping everything over. Finally, a detective came to me, pulled me outside, gave me a blanket, said they were executing a series of raids that morning. And they said they knew it all, right? Did they actually? No. And I chose to cooperate in a sense by telling them a story of passion, that I was this passionate home grower that was just teaching people how to grow. And I was doing nothing illegal. And they had me saying enough times that I was growing and that I was growing in other places. 6 months later, they came down with 4 felonies, 12 misdemeanors. And total they would have equated to 28 years in prison had I gone to trial and been found guilty. I'm looking at a potential prison charge while we have commercial facilities doing the same thing I was doing. I went through 3.5 years of a pre-trial process to finally at the end, I had my second lawyer, who was a public defender, looked at my case, asked me why I didn't have a plea deal yet, and I was like, I would love one, can you please get me one? And came back like a week later with the plea deal for 1 felony count of cultivation. They dropped everything else. They offered me community service, a fine, and probation. Very light in comparison to 28 years in prison, obviously. So super happy to take that. I said yes, signed the paperwork, got it processed. Time I was going through that battle, I was working construction company. I started my own construction company, got my GC license, was just staying the straight and narrow, trying to not get in trouble ever again. Honestly, miserable. Like, I was not living the life that I love living. I was doing the work that I had skill sets at, but it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I get this call from a friend of mine that I've known for many, many years. He had a family member who had a husband that was looking to get into the cannabis industry, and in fact had won a conditional license approval in New Jersey, and offered me the opportunity to talk to them and connect on this project. And that was the beginning of Hamilton Farms.
They called you and said, hey, you have a felony in Colorado growing cannabis. You're experienced in this industry. Can you come out and consult us?
Something like that. Little less about the felony, more so about the passion. They're two awesome families. They're the reason why I moved to New Jersey, right? One of them is a doctor, one of them is a lawyer. Very intelligent, hardworking guys. They wanted to create a future for themselves outside of their careers. They wanted to invest into a business that they could look for the long term. One of the guys was very passionate about cannabis and had consumed it all through medical school and everything. And they just applied for the conditional licenses as kind of a shot in the dark to see what would happen. They were one of the first 10 to get approved. We're getting closer to the finish line of this being done, and they kept poking me. So you're gonna take this job? And I remember sitting here by myself in an Airbnb rental for a couple days and thinking, if I had this family who's so willing to bring me out here, show me what this place is all about, and fund basically my dream to come to reality, how could I say no to that? Moving to New Jersey is almost like a flash from the past. It's like seeing Colorado in its early phases, right? With a little more knowledge to go with it. Because New Jersey has the benefit of seeing all the other markets develop and see the benefits and the negatives that came from all those regulations in those different markets. And New Jersey has chosen, their own pathway. Pricing is still pretty high in New Jersey. It's $50+ per eighth or $100+ per gram of rosin. The bar is being stepped up every day. But our goal is to create unique New Jersey-based genetics that don't exist anywhere else. Taking some staples that we've already worked with, combining them with some other staples, and seeing if we can find some new pathways of things that haven't been opened up yet.
Feminized breeding kind of made its wave into the market where nobody really wanted to hunt through the males anymore for commercial production. So they were doing more pheno hunts with just all feminized. So we took one of our genetics, or two of them, and crossed them together. So we took our Greasy Gary, which had a very good market response. It was very frosty, very floral. Lamb's bread's very tall, very big on the cola size. The Greasy Gary tends to be a little bit shorter, a whole lot frostier. It tests a lot higher. So by crossing the two of them together, we should gain some frost on those nice big colas. I do like to focus on older genetics, more of your AK-47s, your train wrecks, the nostalgic ones. Even Blue Dream's gonna be one in the pipeline that we're gonna start playing with.
We're bringing a bunch of Piff varieties to the New Jersey market through Hamilton. Piff is a specific kind of haze from the East Coast mainly. And it's just a really special variety that a lot of people that grew up in the 90s and 2000s were smoking. So it's a specific terps, scent. It leaves a really special incense smell in the air. It's one of those strains that if you smell it once, you'll never forget it and you'll always be able to recognize it. A lot of people will say frankincense and myrrh, grandma's basement, old mop water. It's a really, really strange kind of thing, but it smells so good. Piff is originally from Neville's-Worth, which was like an NO5 Haze A. Some Cubans went to Amsterdam and got the seeds, brought them back to Miami, and started cultivating them there. And then it was really preserved by a lot of those Cuban growers and some Dominican growers up in New York as well. Back then, like I said, you couldn't really get fire weed. You couldn't go pick out from 20 different strains. You had to get what the dealer had. So we were smoking either brick weed, or the next level up from that would be the Airy or the Arizona. Up from there, you had either the Hydro or the Piff and the Sour. At times, you had to go to like some of the worst neighborhoods to get this stuff, and who knows what could happen when you get there, but as long as you left with that Piff in your pocket, then, that trip was all worth it.
Yeah, well, as I understand it, like Piff and Haze strains, they're not exactly the best cannabis strains for production facilities because they take a really long time to grow. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, traditionally, a lot of the Piff strains are 90 to 120 days. But through Piff Coast Farms, we've done a lot of selective breeding for faster flowering times. And I'm proud to say that now in 2026, We have strains that work on a production level. We have ones that finish 55 to 63 days, all the old school Piff terps and nostalgia. So it's something that like the old school can love, but the new school can appreciate as well. Looking good, baby, looking good. Nice haze buds. 2-tier Piff grows. Autobahn Golden Haze cross Harlem Dreams. Even though the Autobahn Gold is a 120-day cut and the Harlem Dreams is a 90-day cut, we were somehow able to find this freaky 65-day pheno. But you can see the different structure from what you would be used to. Look at these elongated pistils, and look at these foxtails on the top. It's pretty cool.
There isn't many people growing out here. There's only just a handful of us. I realized that haze and sour were a big hit. They were kind of traditionally part of New York and in a sense also part of Jersey. And so I kind of wanted to tap into that haze market, also just some local strains, and kind of combine that with the West Coast strains. Cali's identity at that time and even currently is candy. It's runts, it's a lot of candy, and we needed something new here. And so I wanted to start creating some new strains, some new flavor profiles. The current line that I've been working on is the Scarlet line, and it's a reversal of Red Hot grapes. It's tangy, trop cookies, and grape gasoline. And I hit that with Dante's Inferno. I hit that with the Holy Communion, which is a Piff strain. It's Piff, Blue Dreams, Cuban Black Haze, and I actually found a very fast pheno from his seeds. And it basically flowers in 56, 63 days. I think to be a good breeder is kind of like being a good designer, in a sense that you need to have this perfectionist mentality, really selecting the proper pheno, selecting the proper checklist of everything. And when you find the right one, when you find a unicorn and you cross that with another one that you find is really right, then most of the seeds that come out are going to be good.
The room that we're in right now is a truly custom designed cannabis production room. But you know, you guys are, just like you mentioned, growing in shipping containers here as well. Can you describe like why you guys chose to bring shipping containers in, how that growing process might be a little bit different than say a room like this?
One factor is just cost. You know, we are a bootstrapped, family invested company, and we don't want to take any more investment outside. The shipping container possibility came up because they were sitting in California for sale. They were already built out. They were used and ready to be picked up and transferred here. So we saw a flat price for built out containers, and we factored that against what it would take to build out our own spaces. It was much cheaper. The one hard part with them is we now have 10 independent zones and climates to adjust, to monitor, to keep track of. That's great in one aspect because we get to dial those in for each cultivar and what their preference is. But that's more work for us to go through and monitor 10 different sensor systems. So it's definitely a lot of fun, but it has equated to more work for us as well.
So Anthony, having the background of being, you know, a cannabis cultivator and then also running a construction company, being a general contractor, what things did you take into account when building these rooms out?
Yeah, efficiency. In commercial cultivation, it's everything. We have always metrics for dollars per gram, grams per square foot. One of the biggest factors for efficiency is how much moisture we can remove from the environment that we're in. That's why we chose Anden as our dehumidifiers. Out in the East Coast, Anden was a much easier product to achieve at a better price. We went with the 710s. They offer a newer technology that not only can remove moisture from the air, it can add it back in. In New Jersey, we have variable climate conditions through the seasons. We found that winter times, our dry and cure room dipped dramatically into the danger threshold for dryness. So Anden has this amazing steam humidifier that attaches to the wall. It sterilizes and cleans that water into steam when it emits it. So it is a particulate-free steam.
Let's dive into a little bit of the methodology that you guys have here, starting with when plants are at their youngest.
Now with the containers being online and the 2 flower rooms, it's pretty much a non-stop rotation of cut clones, plant clones, cut clones, plant clones. So I'm on about a 3-week schedule, so every 3 weeks I'm filling a room. The rooms are about 448, so I usually take 6 to 800 just because I always like to have a lot of extras. I like to take an 8 to 10 inch cut off the plant, and then I will pull my leaves up to get the nice little round leaf structure, and then soak them in a cup for about 10-15 minutes. 45-degree cut at a 6-inch. And then we will hydrate our pots. At the moment we're using the Floraflexes. Usually a little Azos and Myco sprinkle, just to add some beneficials, and then solid water through with our nutrient mix.
We provide the beneficial insects primarily in the vegetative phase, like in our mom room and then our veg room. That way we can kind of load them in there, let them crawl around, let them do their thing. The goal is to prevent that in veg so that we don't need to apply them in flower. We're on auto order with Growers House.
Yeah.
And those just come every 2 to 3 weeks. So we have them on a cadence right now where we're getting them every week.
Got it.
So we don't let a whole lot of people in here. Even Anthony doesn't come in here a whole lot unless he's knocking on the door. So you guys get an exclusive. So this room is dedicated for tissue culture propagation. This is the cleanest room in the facility. We have to keep it that way in order to keep our contamination down.
Tissue culture is the buzzword now. It's a process that's existed in agriculture for a long time, but it's still relatively new to cannabis. We actually brought in a specialist here in our facility to teach us how to do it at a commercial scale right off the bat. But the tissue culture process has kind of changed our game with how we store genetics. At a large scale, we can keep many genetics stored on a single rack instead of having, dozens of moms around at, whatever size to keep them alive. The other side is the genetic quality factor. The tissue culture process preserves genetics in a way that prevents disease, pests, pathogens, any of the things that typically come from a mother room, completely removed in a tissue culture process. So for us, that was one of the first things we wanted to make sure we dialed in early on in our system here to be able to expand in the future.
For the future of Hamilton Farms, will you have a propagation room that will be cuts from mothers, or will just 100% of it come from tissue culture?
Actually, no. The goal is for us to remove mothers and clones altogether and have a completely Gen Zero tissue culture process to production. The fact that moms are typically the place where all the disease and pathogens and pests are harboring, removing them altogether from the facility allows us to have a sterile environment where plants are stored and brought into production from a sterile place.
Like in the flowering phase, you went from pre-programmed irrigation events to kind of automated irrigation events. Can you tell us how you guys strategize irrigating your plants to optimize their growth here?
Basically follow the Arroyo crop steering model, and we're just going generative to start for the first 3 weeks. Our next 3 weeks are our bulking phase, and then we're finishing with generative in the final phase. So in that time period, the generative phase, we're giving them basically 4 to 6 shots. They're going to be smaller shots to get them to field capacity, and then we're letting them get a much higher dryback so that we can actually stack their ECs up, which is something you want early in flower to help prevent a little bit of that stretching. So once we get through the generative phase, we're just adding in maintenance shots, so like little burst shots, say 30 seconds to 45 seconds on every half hour to 45 minutes.
Crop steering is more of this scientific-based approach to cannabis cultivation, right? At this point, we're taking data collecting from our substrate sensors, which is EC or electrical conductivity and volumetric water content. And we're taking that data to be able to improve our growth style and patterns. And with LED lights, they have this incredible light output. They have a lot of energy being released from the diodes themselves, but very little heat goes with it. So these plants, they have a transpiration rate that has to do with the amount of moisture that they can release from their stoma. And that has to do with the amount of humidity in the air itself. So our BPD has to be in balance for us to be able to maximize the nutrient uptake from these plants. So the double tier system and the LEDs and the environmentals all play together to create the right conditions for these plants to thrive in. So for us, we're typically going a little bit warmer, a little bit more humid to allow for that heavier transpiration rate. So we're trying to stick in between typically a 0.8 to a 1.0 kPa on our BPD early on in our veg in our first couple weeks of flower. And as we increase our bud production later in flower, we'll start to taper up our VPD, taper down our temperatures and our humidity, and start to get more of a 1 to 1.2.
We have PAR sensors through the TSR. We also have them through GrowLink. And we even have a manual read that will go and adjust for different plant heights just to see where stuff's at.
Let's chat about why you guys chose the TSR grow lights, because those are kind of a unique lighting solution.
So with the TSR grow lights, we can program our own recipes per cultivars. So we have 16 different racks in the rooms. We can actually do it per rack and adjust per what the cultivars need. The difference with TSR is one, the customer service, and then the grow hub as well. And that's where we get to set all those recipes in. The other awesome thing with TSR is they can see everything on the back end. So we'll even get calls from them at some point, but they had that kind of level of care of like, hey, we see this on and it's not supposed to be on.
So Mikhail, you're the co-founder and CEO of TSR Grow, which is the lighting solution these guys are using here, which is one of the most unique lighting solutions in the cannabis industry. You guys have a whole software platform that is much more sophisticated. Tell us a little bit about what your software platform does.
That's the value of the remote power, the grow hub, and our lighting all together as a solution. I mean, our theme, remote power, changes everything. And we made the decision to launch our whole company and product portfolio around remote power servered products so that we could lead the charge into the future of data-driven cultivation. Our software platform is Grow Hub. By getting rid of the drivers, you get rid of the need to run control wires. By centralizing the power, we now have power and dimming on the same line. And now with our Grow Hub software, we can create recipes, whether it's intensity or spectral, so that you can now deliver photons where you need them, when you need them, for the specific strains you're growing. And the other thing that comes out of that is you save a lot of energy.
I imagine installing these units, you can probably daisy chain them rather than everyone having to have an electrical drop per light. Is that correct?
100% correct. Simpler installation, daisy chains. It simplifies and saves a lot of cost on the infrastructure that's typically not measured or recognized.
If any of you are cannabis cultivators out there and interested in TSR grow lights, we're putting a form in the description you can fill out, and someone from TSR Grow will reach out to you and see if it's good for your operation. You guys have really gotten into crop steering, as we've been chatting about. And with that, I think it's really a focus on having a very consistent input of what you're feeding your plants, right? On the nutrient side. So you guys are about to start beta testing some Ventana Plant Science nutrients, is that correct?
Yes, so we are currently running a different nutrient set, and we've run others in the past. As we see, say, issues arise, sometimes you'll have some fallout occurring in the actual mixture itself.
Solubility is number one for me, especially if there is anything creating sediment. It can work itself down the lines and actually clog emitters. But I guess just full uptake is what we're looking for, right? Like we wanna make sure that everything that we're putting in here is being fully utilized by the plants.
I'm X from Taste of Earth. You know, this is my hometown, so to have CannaCribs here at Hamilton Farms. I've been watching CannaCribs for years, man. Hours and hours of like having my wife sit down and watch it with me, you know. And I'm just learning about the cultivation side. And then when I actually got into the space, you know, I was able to like pinpoint things that I learned from CannaCribs. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like a full circle moment for me, man. Like I'm just hyped to meet the team.
First harvest was in May of 2024. We were very lean. I think they call it a skeleton crew or something like that. We were the third recreational license to be approved after the conversion. So the first 5 were all the medical licenses that got converted first, and we were the first 3 of the brand new rec market to get the approval. Once we got that approval, it was important for us to get off the ground running properly, and we didn't have a large team. So we had our first hires in was Cole, Eric, and myself, and we ran the first 2 rooms, just the 3 of us. We've grown to about 35 people. Any given day on site, we have about 30 people. The whole thing is about 73,000 square feet. And our original build out was 13,000 square feet of finished space.
You guys have won a lot of awards. You guys have a really well-respected brand in Jersey. Let's talk about that a little bit.
MJ Unpacked is a convention that happens every year. Last year was the first one here in New Jersey. They have a cannabis cup that goes along with it. The judges don't have any COA data for potency. They have no access to the brand that it came with. They're issued an unlabeled package, and they judge the product based on all the metrics that are standard through the GANGA process. So we submitted several things last year, and we won 3 first place awards and 1 second place award. Best hybrid, and 2 of them were for best profiles. One was best earth profile, and one was best floral profile.
All right, come on now.
All right. Here we go.
Love it. It's a family affair.
It's a family
It's
affair.
all thanks to her, really.
True. That is very true. This is the one thing I always say, I did something right in life. You know what I'm saying? This is it right here. This is my show-off piece. I am actually a QC manager, and I basically oversee the trimming that's coming into our room. We, hand trim to what I think is perfection.
No, real story though, when I got raided, she may have had a garden in her place as well. It was a scary time for all of us. I mean, she was fully medical, fully backed for her medical needs and everything, but at that time they weren't necessarily looking at our cards to be legitimate. So we're fortunate that she didn't get wrapped up in it as well.
So Cole, as I understand it, you're one of the 3 musketeers, the 3 original people that helped get Hamilton Farms off the ground.
That's right. I started here in January 2024 as we were loading our first flower room. All of the work at the beginning, we had 16-hour days coming in and just de-leafing, getting the whole room ready. And it was a blast, but it was a lot of work.
Nice. So how did you end up making your way into the cannabis industry?
I actually went to school for cannabis and major in soil science and hydrology and combined that with a minor in cannabis studies. So I was going to school for growing weed.
So look, I can just tell from interacting with you even before we started filming, you care about cannabis. You're taking a very intentional approach to every step. Let's talk about what that looks like from a very granular perspective.
Yeah, so it all starts out right after we chop down the plant. We bring them into our dry room, and it's not just okay, they're in our dry environment, time to move on and forget about it. Every single day we're coming in, we're checking the plants, we're moving them around, we'll run our water activity test on it, and we follow its progression.
Yeah, and this is a cure room that we're in right now.
Yes, this is our cure room.
Yeah, and behind us, you're curing in these cylinders.
We are using 30-gallon drums. We put about 6 to 8 pounds of cannabis in each side of each one of these. We fill it about 75% of the way full, and then we start using our cure pucks. These things are really awesome because it gives us full control over the cure without ever actually having to open the barrel. These things are fantastic. We get to program the parameters of when we want it to burp, how long we want it to burp. It even has an app on my phone, so when I'm not at the grow, I can see how my plants are doing on curing.
Got it. this is measuring right here. I've seen these before, but it's relative humidity. What says parts per million?
Parts per million of CO2. They give you a lot of options, so you can set it up to burp automatically. You can really refine your cure methods with this and still have an automated system.
So Eric, you guys use Integra Boost packs here at Hamilton Farms. How do you use them and why?
We utilize them mainly in our dry process. This past winter, it got extremely cold in New Jersey. We were down to 5 degrees for a week, pulled all of the moisture out of the air. So we had an issue where our dry room, moisture level had dropped too far. So stuff was starting to dry out a little too quick. The Integra packs allow us to keep that humidity into our sealed bins so they're not drying out further. So it's kind of a little tool to just keep them humidified before they get bucked and then when they get trimmed down. So with the Integra Boost packs, they are 2-way. So sometimes if it's a little too dry, it can help keep moisture inside of it, but then if things are too wet, you can have that boost pack in there and it'll actually absorb some of the moisture from it. Yeah, the terpene preservation that we've found, and we've actually seen it and validated it through our data, we've seen it continually starting to rise up since we've implemented them.
Being a post-harvest manager, are there any lessons that you've learned that have been maybe tough, hard lessons?
Yes, believe it or not, cannabis can be too sticky. So of all of our cures, the apple jelly is the one that I was the proudest of. I have never felt a nug that was that fresh and sticky. We sent it out to market. People were complaining all over Reddit that it was clogging their grinders and they couldn't grind it. It was so sticky that it wasn't falling through, it was just clumping up in there. But it was the best product ever. So when we put out the pre-rolls of that, the flavor was bursting and everybody bought them. They sold out like crazy.
You guys do a lot of Roll Pros joints, right?
We do a lot of Roll Pros joints. In 2025, they accounted for 12% of our total sales. This year, they are already accounting for 20% of our total sales.
Why did you guys end up choosing this machine for the New Jersey market in particular?
With the Blackbird, we get to really fine tune our joints and go for the optimal draw that we want. We have over 100 different cultivars that we run here at Hamilton Farms. And when you have that much diversity in your strains, the bud structure, the density of the buds, the stickiness of the bud, all of those little factors that go into it affect what you're gonna get out of the roll. The nice thing about the Blackbird is it lets us fine tune and adjust all of those settings from crutch size to the tightness of the roll itself, so we can make sure that we are getting the perfect joint every time. One of the great things about the Blackbird is they have many different crutch options, from a 6.5 all the way up to a 9mm crutch. And that lets us roll anything from a 0.4 gram joint all the way up to a 1 gram joint. One of the cool things about the Blackbird, given that we have 100 different strains and all the variants that goes in with that, we're able to save our recipes on here. The Roll Pros has a phenomenal capacity. It's able to handle not only our needs, but other brands as well. So we've partnered with a couple brands like Tyson 2.0, and using our Blackbird, we produce 1 gram pre-rolls for them. Roll Pros is our most cost-effective packaging solution, not just on labor cost for being able to roll the joints. It only costs about 3 cents per roll between the paper and the crutch.
Behind every great grow, there's a great team. At CannaCribs Consulting, we bring together PhDs, award-winning growers, and industry veterans who have scaled everything from boutique indoor farms to 25-acre greenhouses and 160-acre outdoor ops. We've helped producers increase yields by up to 40%, cut cost per gram below $1 for indoor operations, and below even 30 cents for greenhouse operations. We've helped turn around underperforming operations. Just ask our clients, who call us professional, reliable, and a pleasure to work with. From IPM to financial modeling, fertigation design to labor optimization, our approach is holistic and hands-on. Ready to unlock your facility's full potential? Click the link in the description to talk to our team and start your custom consultation today. Optimize your grow, lower your costs, boost your yields. Book your consult below. So what do you think like the biggest misconception people have about scaling craft cannabis?
So it's not always just 10xing everything. The more plants you grow, you're gonna have to dial those environments in even more. You know, when we first started growing, we were hitting 170 pounds of light, 180. We've gotten that up to 346 pounds. It was our largest one of recent. If you don't have the correct amount of labor to get through that plant quantity, the plants will suffer. You'll have environmentals that are going to be off, airflow issues if they're not getting to the plants at the right time to defoliate them. We like to go off a model of one full-time employee outside of management per 750 to 1,000 square feet of canopy.
Tell us about, what's next for Hamilton Farms in 2026 and beyond.
Tissue culture being the main one. We have that awesome lab we looked at. We're getting it set up to produce for our own needs, which is the #1 priority. But once that's set up, we're opening up the possibility to have a subscription service and supply tissue culture genetics to everybody else in the state. In my opinion, 5 years down the road, if you're not going from tissue culture from your beginning part of your propagation, you're already behind the game. So I feel like we're making some strides, investments right now to get ahead of that. We have our breeding program that we're expanding on. So we have more and more Hamilton-based genetics to supply to the market. And then the last thing would be our manufacturing license. We just got approved with that last week, actually. So we're about 3 weeks away from being issued the license, but we plan on being one of the very few single source live rosin companies in the state. I feel good about it.
Solid. Okay, then I'm good. Okay.
Nice.
Boom.
We
Scene
did
1
it.
done. Oh, 10 out of 10 mustache.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to and dreading this.
And so now now you made it through.
Now it's done and I get to watch everybody else sweat themselves.
You guys need to grab, sorry. So we're here with Lance DiMaria. Wow, that sounded a little bit. Okay,
You don't have to roll the R's though.
I know, I was like, my mom's Mexican, so sometimes it comes out. So we're here with Lance DiMaria. Fuck me, dude. That's
AKA
funny.
Breeder Piff.
I know, I'm trying to get it all straight. AKA Breeder Piff of Piff Coast Farms.
So a lot of people are breeding with herms, and then it winds up to come up with a. Jeez.
It's all good.
And then it ends up contaminating their herm. Whatever. I'm done with that.
No, they got to do interviews for you.
So if people are in Jersey and they smoke some Piff Coast Farms strains, what should they go eat and where?
Ooh. Well, if it's breakfast time, you should definitely go get a pork roll, egg, and cheese. If you're in South Jersey, if you're in North Jersey, they're going to call it Taylor ham. That is the Jersey classic. Lunchtime, probably an Italian sub, man. You know, any deli got it. Go check it out.